because the high carb thing, you know what it did? It caused a lot of women to have terrible premenopause and menopause because it set them up for that earlier in life, and it also caused everybody to get overweight. Now can you see? So if we correct that initial problem, there's a cascade, a domino effect that occurs. And that's what the inevitability protocol is really all about. Here's what it is. There's 4 aspects to it. Number 1, now what I really like to say up front to women is that there's a lot of things that you can do, and a lot of them will produce some result, but I'm not into suboptimal results. Now you have to do something. The first step in the inevitability protocol is accept the fact that there are simple yet very powerful lifestyle adjustments that you need to make that are the fundamental and primary cause of the breakdown. Now let's go back so you understand this. The dominant burden, all right? A dominant burden, as I said, is anything that overstimulates and spikes your major hormones. There are 2 dominant burdens that are the absolute worst, most powerful disease-promoting, dysfunctional causing burdens in society today. Number 1 is the insane overconsumption of refined sugars, refined fructose, refined starches. Big hormone number 1 is insulin. Big hormone number 2 and 3 are adrenaline and cortisol. Here's how it works. We all think that insulin is the stuff that diabetics shoot in their leg. Insulin is the primary supply hormone. When you eat food, breaks down, gets into your bloodstream. What is the thing that directs it to the cells, opens the cell door, and shuttles the energy and the nutrients in? That's insulin. Okay. It's not designed to pull sugar out of the blood, because we're going to all find out here soon that you're not designed to have elevated sugar in your blood. That's a misnomer. We're not supposed to have high elevations of carbohydrates or sugars in our blood. All right? Okay. So that's what insulin does. Adrenaline and cortisol, we typically think of those as our stress hormones, right? When you're under stress, and that's true, that's what they do. But they're not designed to be activated for stress day in and day out, 4, 5, 6 times a day. They're designed specifically for emergency purposes only, right? When you're threatened, when your survival is threatened, adrenaline and cortisol are the demand side of your metabolism. So just think of it as supply and demand. Insulin gives, adrenaline and cortisol takes. Just right now, you and I are sitting here talking. You're trying to listen to what I have to say, and you're asking me questions, and I'm talking. We're both expending energy as a result of that. Even the processes of thinking, we have to expend and use energy. Something has to make that happen. That's what adrenaline and cortisol does. But in order for us to do that, in order for us to have the supply in our body, insulin put it in there. Okay. Think of this. Your brain is monitoring insulin and cortisol constantly, because if one of them spikes and goes up, your brain immediately goes, that is a threat to my survival. And all other processes are going to shut down, and it's going to focus only on survival. And if you do that over and over and over again, this is the accumulated burden of stress, and this is how it tears your body down. Because when you elevate those hormones, what you're doing is you're creating a massive damage and dysfunction to your metabolism, because it's not designed to handle huge amounts of these hormones. What is stress? When you feel it, what is it? It's this sick feeling in your stomach, it's tension in your shoulders, but you realize that what's really happening is those hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, are just ripping into your tissues like a piranha on steroids. but because you allowed your boss or your husband or your kids or some stress cause that elevation. Now can you understand? Do that repeatedly, and we're really not talking about anything different than somebody who puts a burden on their body like smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, or an alcoholic, or a heroin addict. You know, I'm not trying to compare or to say that those things are equal. I'm saying it's a similar thing when you put that much burden on yourself and it causes you to break down. So, you've got to deal with the amount of sugar, starch, and bad carbohydrate that you're consuming, and you've got to look at the total burden of the mental and emotional stresses in your life, and we can help teach you to understand what is it that you have to do in order to help it. Now, there's another concept, and that is every form of stress that's placed upon the human being. The dominant burdens are the big ones, right? But we've got mental, emotional stress, physical stress, chemical stress, hormonal stress. There's a lot of different forms of stress, okay? So what women need is an evaluation of that total load of stress. And if they get that evaluation, I guarantee you, because I've done it thousands of times, I could say to you, Cassie, I could sit down with you and I could just ask you some questions so that we could pull this information out of you. And then we could put a number on it. Like if I said, you know, to you, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say your stress levels are? Right? That's a great question. That's a big, general, broad question. But if you give me an answer of 3, and I'd be going, all right, well, I'm going to be looking at perhaps your sugar intake or something else. Or I'm going to probe a little bit more because I don't know too many 3s out there, right? So I'm going to want to question that.
I want to be a 3.
Yeah, that's what I want to get you to. So just by a series of questions like that you ask, physical, mental, emotional, you know, and even some spiritual questions, or some questions about your self-worth and your self-value and your self-appreciation. You get all that on the table. Can you imagine? All these women are going into these doctors' offices. They got 6 minutes to get what if somebody did an intake evaluation on them before they went into the doctor? They had all this information readily available, and they said, here, and all he's got to do is scan it and look at it and go, okay, well, there's a 7, there's an 8, there's a 9, these are the things that are really, and then they started looking at that and said, all right, now I know what to do. I know exactly what to do to lower this burden of stress. And they put you on a program to help you with that first. I guarantee you that revolutionizes medicine. That revolutionizes the way in which we're going to be able to get results. Okay? So, number 1 is make sure that you understand and know, and we teach you how to do this, what those lifestyle burdens are, how to remove those dominant burdens and this total load of stress. Number 1, you've got it handled. The second thing is